We're going to talk a little bit about a campaign that was run in mobile, put together and coordinated by the PhD team, executed by my team at Medialets, run on a bunch of great publisher sites for an absolutely phenomenal brand, HBO's True Blood. Just wonderful show, great time working with everybody involved in this. You can't have much more fun than the kind of creative we got to work with in the course of this. So I'm Eric Litman, I'm the CEO of Medialets. We are a mobile-rich media platform deployed in the vast majority of the big apps in mobile that people would want to buy mobile-rich media in. And we worked very closely with the PhD team and a host of other partners in this to make what we think is a really cool ad, but we'll let you guys decide for yourselves. And Jessica here will talk about the execution. We'll go back and forth a little bit and hopefully be done in like 10 minutes and back out in the lobby for drinks.
Sweet. So, as we approached this program, we were essentially looking to launch the third season of HBO's True Blood. At this stage, it's become kind of a cultural phenomenon. I would ask how many people have watched it, but I know no one wants to raise their hands again. And essentially, nice. And essentially, we were challenged to come up with something really unique. They'd done a really kick-ass campaign last year. They were really happy with it. It won a lot of awards, and so we were sort of trying to figure out what can we do to be as interesting. And on top of that, we were also challenged to drive more people to watch the actual program than had watched it for the previous season's premiere, which was a pretty daunting challenge. And so in order to engage the audience, what we looked to do, and to grow the audience really, was to capitalize on the fan base. The fan base is, in a lot of ways, rabid, which I know sounds kind of icky when you're talking about vampires, but they are hugely devoted, and so we sort of took on the term fangelism, and we looked to develop media opportunities that would incite current fans to engage with the brand, get excited, talk about it, and sort of spread the True Blood word. And so one of the things that we looked to do was to work in the mobile space, and we looked to Medialets to help us come up with some interesting and unique opportunities that would help to do that.
It was perfect timing. My team had just come up with a new format, a transparent overlay format for in-app advertising that we'd yet to bring to market. And we, through the creative services team that we have, we spent a bunch of time just generally looking out across ads that both we'd run and a number of other really innovative companies in mobile. And one thing that we had noticed, it wasn't a trend, it was an early data point, is that interruptive ads with strong creative, assuming they're well executed, may drive strong results. No big surprise there. But as we started to put the pieces together, we came up with a creative execution that not only was the core and foundation of this particular mobile campaign, but ultimately made its way back out into the creative across the entire execution that HBO did for the season, with mobile being the driver of this. So anyone in this room who's been in mobile for a long time and felt that mobile was in some way subordinate to other media, we're definitely starting to see a meaningful turn there. I would love to do a demo, but demos are a little bit hard on the small display there, and it's on a small iPhone device. So I figured I would just give you a sense of what the ad looked like as people engage with it in their mobile devices. So picture you're browsing through Flickster, you're looking for a movie, you're in Variety looking up the latest movie industry news. Out of nowhere, you go to touch an article, you get a bloody fingerprint on screen. You go to touch again, you get another bloody fingerprint. There's no clear indication that it's an ad. You have no idea what's particularly happening at that moment. You tap it again, you get another fingerprint. The blood starts to drip. It pours down, it takes over the screen, and you get through to the activation point here. Now, on device, you can continue to tap and continue to throw bloody fingerprints up there. You can tap and watch and go through to the trailer. Phenomenally cool ad, got unbelievably great reactions. I'd be happy to show it off to anyone on device after this, because it's just much more impactful when you actually have this in your hand. And if you can do your best to forget that I've told you about this when I demo it to you, it'll be even better. So here's what it looked like in an app. We have screenshots from Variety in here. The banner was at the bottom, but the banner auto-expanded, and again, consumers didn't know that it expanded. So each of your interactions beyond the time at which you've launched or gone to that particular page or screen in the application ends up with the bloody fingerprint that then drips and pours the blood down beyond it. Beyond that, you get into the activation point and the trailer as it moved throughout.
So when we approached this, we really wanted to make sure that we put this app in the right places. We wanted to hit the right audience, in the right mindset. And so we looked to Variety and Flickster, specifically knowing that we're hitting industry folks, entertainment enthusiasts, and then we also worked with JumpTap to take advantage of their network, again, to look at apps where the audience is correct. In addition to that, we also wanted to, Trueblood's a bit on the racy side. I believe as the clients put it, it's a hard R if it were gonna be in theaters. Which I don't know if you've watched it, but it can be freaky. And so we did want to make sure that everyone was 18 and over. So we also looked at properties that could age gate, and we worked with Medialets to work through who among the folks that we wanted to work with could work with you. Worked out.
Delivery. So we did two versions of the ad. One was the auto expand, which again it's a very interruptive ad, but we only wanted that to display to users once throughout the course of the campaign. So the first time someone would see the ad in one of the enabled applications, it was the transparent overlay version. But each time beyond that, it was a user engaged interaction. It was an expandable ad where you tap on it, and then from that point forward, it was exactly the same as it was the first time around. Something else that we took advantage of on this particular campaign, because there was a heavy video asset, because there were a lot of creative assets to make all that blood drip, is the notion of asynchronous delivery or caching the ad. So when users launched each of these applications in advance, and I think it was 2 or 3 weeks in advance of the campaign, the application would download the ad creative in the background in a very network-friendly sort of way, so that at the time of the display, they're not sitting there waiting for that fingerprint to download real-time over the wire, at which point they didn't even know a fingerprint was going to be there, creating a horrible user experience. So we didn't do that. We did the opposite. We had a great user experience with an ad that was already on the device. And then ultimately, throughout the course of the campaign, between JumpTap and the direct buys that were done on Flickster and Variety, was a little bit north of 1 million impressions over the course of it. But what's really interesting are the engagement rates on this. So not surprisingly, people who had the ad automatically expanded were very engaged with the ad.
That's shocking.
Shocking, right. I feel a little bit sheepish putting that one up there, but there was 2% of the audience that didn't do anything with the ad and figured out a way to close it. And I think those were people that just immediately closed the application because they couldn't figure out what the hell was going on with their phone. But of the consumers who were presented with just the banner, beyond, now remember, these are people who've already seen the forced expansion, 11% of the people who saw that then tapped on the banner and expanded it to do something with the ad. There was a ton of virality behind this. People saw the ad and they just wanted to show it off. And we've subsequently walked into rooms and meetings where it's people from the media side, and I imagine from the PhD side as well, people we've never met who come up to us and talk about the ad and want us to show it on a demo app, which again, I'm happy to do after this if you want to come up and talk about it. Okay, a couple more of the numbers here. Time spent. This is a really interesting thing, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit when we get to the very end of this, but people who dealt with the ad the first time around, who saw it in the auto expansion, spent considerably more time than people who expanded the ad themselves. And I think there are a couple of reasons for that. Number one is the first time that they saw it was the auto expansion, and so there was novelty associated with it. But I think the other way to look at it is that and we were having a little bit of debate about whether or not this is real. This is pure conjecture. But another way to potentially look at it is that people expanding the ad are already familiar with the brand, right? They're looking for some experience to associate that particular banner with what it is that they know and understand and perceive about that brand and its particular attributes. Whereas the auto expansion had an overlap of people who both knew about and were interested in True Blood and people who had no familiarity with the brand whatsoever. And so the hypothesis is that in and of itself got people to spend more time because they were unfamiliar and because it was just a freaky ad that came up out of nowhere on their device.
I think it's important to note, obviously, someone who doesn't know what's going on is going to spend a little bit more time potentially trying to figure out what's going on than somebody who doesn't, but the average amount of time spent for somebody who had it auto-expanded exceeds the amount of time that it would take to go through the experience quickly and close out. So these are people who continued to play with it after they had the opportunity to say, get this off my phone.